Ladies and gentlemen, the latest episode of New Books, Euripides Volume 4 in its series of 4 or 5. This is the plays Rhesus, The Suppliant Women. Oh, I should turn the AC off. Orestes, Iphigenia, and Aulis. Aulis. The Articles of Confederation, an interpretation of the social constitutional history of the American Revolution. An interpretation, 1774 to 81. Aeschylus, the Orestia, Agamemnon, Libation Bearers, Eumenides, several copies of that, just like Euripides. Renaissance art, edited by Crichton Gilbert, with essays by lots of different people. There's art books are a dime a dozen, but I thought if I have one art book in my entire library, it better be about the Renaissance. Virgil, a collection of critical essays. Now, I thought this was Virgil when I bought it. I just saw Virgil and bought it, but it's a bunch of academics writing about Virgil, so from Yale University. So they're probably all going to be talking about Freud and stuff like that. The Minutemen and Their World, Robert A. Gross, another book in my American history section. I don't know how it can add possibly but to all the other books that I have on American history, but just when you think you knew everything about this or that, you pick up another book that's from a different perspective, sort of, and get even more information. So I think that we'll put this in military history, the Minutemen and Their World. Or American history, either one, right? History of English Thought in the 18th Century, that's the 1700s. It's by Sir Leslie Stephen. This is published in 1962, first published in 1876, ladies and gentlemen. So, A History of Thought in the 1700s, published in 1876. I mean, the 1700s is when America broke off from Britain. So, number one, America is pretty good because it inherited from Britain so much. Number two, Britain must have been declining in some way to start allowing colonies to break away. Or maybe America's actually quite exceptional, and colonies didn't generally break away from Britain. It's true, they continued to grow right up. I mean, they had Australia and Canada and India by the time World War I hit. So they kept on growing. America wasn't their decline or a sign of their decline. Maybe it was part of it. But what was going on in the thought in London, the intellectual center of the British Empire? Wow, that's interesting. There's a book on it, huh? I'm very interested in England because America wouldn't be what it is if England wasn't our parent. Neither would Australia or India or, Canada or a number of other places. So, okay, Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe. Lincoln met Harriet Beecher Stowe and he said, "Your book helped bring on the Civil War." So I thought that that might be a good book to have around. I haven't read it, although everyone is supposed to have read it. The Plains Indians, a Critical Bibliography by Adamson Hobel. Now what I found interesting about this, and this was published in 1977, what I found interesting in it was the list of, it gives just a one-page or two-page description of all these different cultures, tribal cultures. And listen to all these. Did you know how many there are? I mean, I knew that there were an awful lot. But it's interesting to have this list. Not all of them. This is a list of probably 5% or 10% of the tribes in North America or in the United States proper when we were fighting against them. The Mandan, Hidatsa, Irakara, Omaha, Osage, Ponca, Iowa, Oto, Pawnee, Arapaho, Cheyenne, Gros Ventre, Atsina, Crow, Teton Dakota, Sioux, Blackfoot, Piegan, Assiniboine, Plains Cree, Kiowa, Apache, Comanche, and that's just a partial list. Those were all tribes, independent and warring tribes. And just like nations of the world, they're not always all at war. But someone's always at war, just like the nations of the world. And if white men wasn't fighting the Indians were fighting each other, kicking each other out of hunting grounds and stuff. So, there we go. Rise to Globalism, American Foreign Policy Since 1938 by Stephen Ambrose. Since 1938, it's best to stay away from books about really modern history because we're myopic about it. We have our faces pressed up close to the events and we can't see what's going on. And it's only a little bit of distance in time that allows you to see what these events mean. This was published, again, by Stephen Ambrose in 71, but it was reprinted and updated into 1991, so it must go up past the 70s now. I don't mind if it doesn't. Oh yeah, it does. Reagan and the Evil Empire. Okay, it's all in there. It's best to stay away from modern books because you don't books about the modern era, and they're necessarily written in the modern era. Someone left a comment on one of my library videos. He said newer books are expensive but have up-to-date information. A lot of the newer books aren't. It's not just up-to-date. It's a lot of it's out-of-date, recycled information thrown in with reams and reams of crap and misinterpreted and stuff done in poor taste. And that's what modern books are like. Like if you want to know about the history of things before 1950, it's best to get a book written before 1950, but after the event that you're looking at. To get a book written in 1990, they interweave anthropology and socialism, and they're just terrible. So modern books are not necessarily more up-to-date, unless you're talking about the latest book about genetics or something. They are not necessarily more up-to-date on the information. They nitpick some of the information out of the best books of the past and interweave it with crap. That's what most books are today. So, I rest my case on that. Alright, 6 plays of Plautus. I'm getting a good little library of Roman literature. There's one here. Comedies, classic comedies. Skip to that. Because this is dominated by Roman texts, not Greek. I guess the Greeks were better off with their... well, the Greeks had Aristophanes. He was brilliant. The Greeks were better off, or as good at, the tragic. And all that the Romans could do was comedy and reenactments of Greece. Everything that the Romans did was a reenactment of Greece. Plato, 5 dialogues. Eurythrio, Apology, Crito, Meno, Phaedo. I'm getting a little library of Plato up. If it happens that I get 6 or 8 or 10 copies of this or that essay or a couple essays, once I have students, say 12 or 14 years old, we're going to read Plato. You bet we are. Hopefully by then I'll have a sizable school and I'll be able to just order 40 brand new copies from Dover or whatever. But who knows? Eisenhower, At War, 1943 to 45, by David Eisenhower, his son or grandson or nephew or something. But what I like about this, first of all, the size. It's freaking enormous, 900 plus pages. But it's at war. It's 1943, and as you know, the war started in 1939, so this doesn't even dilly-dally with the stuff leading up to the war. Actually, that probably is the first chapter, but I don't know. Maybe not. What I like about that is that it's about the war years, not a history of the war itself. The French Revolution by Carlyle. Now, when this was originally published, I don't know, but the author died in 1881. I don't need to know too much about the French Revolution at this point, but some point in my life I might. If I understand it correctly, it was quite a theatrical event with personalities as large as the American Revolution, but just not as well